I've been playing a lot of FNAF fan games recently and have noticed an interesting trend, especially with the popular fan games. A vast majority of them have opted out of using the traditional power system of the OG games in favor of more unique mechanics. In today's video, I want to talk about the problem with FNAF's power system and why so many fan games are making the decision to exclude it from their games. The first thing I'd like to get into is the original FNAF games, namely 1 through 3, and how they handle power. Now, despite what I may have led you to believe, I don't entirely dislike the power system. FNAF 1 wouldn't be what it was without it, and it's absolutely spearheaded by having power be a central mechanic. But this is FNAF 1, an incredibly simple game all things considered. You really don't have to do all that much compared to many modern fan games, so the power system actually made a lot of sense to add tension. Where I'm a little more iffy on it is FNAF 2. While I do enjoy the fact that power is not depleted on the cameras, which is one of the biggest gripes I have with the system in most games, aside from FNAF 1 of course, it feels like a pretty redundant and borderline reductive mechanic. When you've got to handle threats with your mask, flashlight, and camera all at the same time, a power system doesn't seem all that necessary. Having Balloon Boy be able to shut down your light makes sense, but why is that tied to a power meter? It could just be a switch that turns on and off. It just feels unnecessary overall. FNAF 3 is a weird case, as it doesn't really have a power system. It instead has a maintenance panel to reboot your different means of defense. I definitely think this is the most interesting of the three conceptually, though I'm not the biggest fan of this game. Overall, as a system, power can be used interestingly, but it is mostly a somewhat redundant mechanic in most contexts, at least in the form of it being an entirely non-replenishable meter. That is, unless your game is very focused on the incoming dread of being attacked, much like the original FNAF game. Or, if your game just doesn't have enough mechanics, it makes sense as something to keep you off the cameras for a long time. Though I do think that's honestly a pretty mediocre design decision, as they could just add more mechanics to the game itself to fix this. It doesn't mean every game should just pile on mechanics, but it can definitely work in the favor of the game. What I want to talk about now is the fan games that take this mechanic and improve it. Either that or straight up remove it from the game, which can also work for their advantage. Before we get into that though, please subscribe as I'm trying to hit 1k subs before May, and join my Discord if you'd like to suggest video topics, as I have a whole channel for that. The first example I have for this is Land. The game uses a semi-traditional power system, that being having a meter that goes down, but the difference is that the only thing that truly happens when it goes down is the light going away. You can still access your lure, which is the main mechanic and the camera type thing for anyone who hasn't played this game, and it's just a hindrance. And also, you can replenish your power via bringing gas to a generator with the aforementioned lure. This makes for an interesting setback while not being paramount to the gameplay loop, merely being a hindrance that is somewhat ignorable if you're good enough, but still mostly important, especially later game. I actually also have a bad example of a power system in the same game, specifically the boss fight, as, in this fight, your only method of defense is a flashlight tied to the power system. The problem with this fight specifically is that they forego all possible fear or enjoyable gameplay by making the battery go down so fast that you have to be incredibly meticulous with it when you use it, to the point of pure tedium. One of the other major examples of a non-existent power system is Forgotten at Fredbear's. This game opts out of the traditional power system seen in most FNAF games of its type, instead going for having threats inside the office to keep you off the cameras, along with resource management in the camera itself, as there are audio lures with only a certain amount of power on each, still somewhat using something like a music box, but a little bit more power based, and the resource management is really competent with how the game's designed. Another interesting example of a power system substitute in heavy quotations is Playtime with Percy. In this game you have no power system, but you are under the threat of losing access to your cameras if you're not careful, since certain threats will shut down your camera. Along with that, there's a necessity in needing to play this Tamagotchi every little while, still accounting for resource management. Your resource is just more so time in this case. I think a camera system similar to this is what they should have done with Balloon Boy, except instead of cameras, of course it's your flashlight. FNAF fan games could still 100% take the power system practically verbatim and still be interesting. It's not an entirely redundant mechanic, it definitely has its uses. Just look at Polardread. Easily one of my favorite FNAF fan games and VR games, and the power is incredibly important to the dread in that game, pun intended. The game also definitely goes for more interesting VR mechanics and overall horror, so it does make sense to have the power system to still keep a semblance of the original design of FNAF. This video is by no means a conclusive case on if or if not power systems should be in FNAF fan games, but I've just thought it interesting how they go about it in comparison to the original games, and either improve on it, straight up remove it, or kind of take its original principles while changing it immensely. This is an incredibly subjective topic, of course, and this is just my opinion on it. So, make sure to like, subscribe, and join my Discord if you enjoyed.